everyone, Michelle Seidling here with another episode of Food Experience Unplugged. Today we'll explore how to use motion as medicine to lower your risk of disease and feel your best. Here to help us do that is Master Fitness Trainer David Frost. This podcast is available on multiple platforms, including YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and others. Please be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to be informed as new episodes become available. If you enjoyed today's episode or any of our episodes, please rate and review the podcast on your favorite platform. Also, be sure to check out our website at foodexperienceunplugged.com for some resources as you begin your health journey. David Frost, welcome to Food Experience Unplugged.
Michelle, thank you. I am glad to be here. I love experiences and I certainly love food. So thanks.
Well, you've come to the right place because we're all about food, both on and off your plate. So I'm so happy to be here as we talk about motion as medicine and how to integrate motion into your life, basically. But to get started, will you introduce yourself for a moment and tell us what brought you to this point in your life and in your career?
Oh, boy. I've been around a few blocks a few times, Michelle, so I'll try to spare your listeners and keep it brief. But I was born on the crest of a wave and rocked into the cradle of, no, that's what I used to learn in the Navy. But I'm a Vermonter by birth. Uncle Sam's Navy sent me to various parts of this crazy world, so I gained a lot of experiences. My folks were always encouraging me to stretch and grow, whether it was my first pull up as a Boy Scout or a water safety thing in a cold, dark colored body of water in New York. Just it challenged me, and challenge is always good so that we don't get on a plateau and not strive for a brass ring. So after Uncle Sam's Navy and after getting married to a wonderful lady, we decided to stay in San Diego after moving around a fair bit. So we decided to leave Uncle Sam's full-time employment in 1981, and I decided that I would join the running craze, the Jim Fixx running craze, the joy of running, and become a marathoner, even though at that point I was a Clydesdale. But there is proof that a Clydesdale can still finish under 3 hours and do it without hurting himself or perhaps herself. And in my case, I was a marathon runner, which was kind of nice because you only needed a towel and a water bottle and some good running shoes to do it, to move like our forebears did when they had to hunt for their dinner on the plains or on the pampas. So that was all well and good, but life kind of dealt me everyone faces a little challenge or adversity. Just before September 11th, 2001, I herniated my L5-S1 disc pretty badly. My left calf was atrophied. I wasn't getting the neuromuscular system to do the things I wanted to do. So I had invasive surgery. I had spinal fusion, which put me out of commission at the age of 49 from doing the thing I love to do. So after wearing a corset for 6 months and walking in a pool, which was the only exercise I was allowed to do for a number of months, I was able to get back to walking. And my wife said, "You've got to go find something else to do because you're not to run anymore. You don't want an L5, L4 fusion because you don't have room in your back for all that metal." So I got back to my sport of crew. I was honored to be a collegiate rower, but after a 29-year absence, I was able to get back into a sport I've always loved and continue to practice probably 5 to 6 days a week now. We're not on the water quite as much because of this crazy pandemic, but I sure spent a lot of time sitting down and going nowhere on an indoor rower and teaching others how to row and have fun. So that's kind of me. I'm a retired Navy guy. I'm lucky enough to be an adjunct professor to teach organizational behavior, soft skills, teach experiences, and how to profit from them. And proud grandpa. I've got 2 delightful kids and 2 delightful grandkids that we hope to see a little more often. So probably that's me. Master fitness trainer, former world champion in outdoor rowing, and former national champion indoor rowing. Last March 1st, just before the pandemic, I was honored to sit next to the guy that set the world record for my age group. That's okay. There's only one world record setter, and I chased him, but he beat me. But that's the experience, and he's a wonderful gentleman as well. So, wow, I thought I was going to be short, but I wasn't, Michelle. That's me.
No,
Dave
that's
Frost.
okay. Wow. So, master fitness trainer, was that kind of a natural next step for you after all of your crew experience, your running experience? What was that spark that helped you decide to become a master fitness trainer?
There were three things. One was the spinal fusion. I had to remember how to do the things that I was able to do, or try to do the things I was able to do as a new master's rower. So that was part of it. Was my own physical challenges. The second part was corporate America kind of said, Dave, you got gray hair and you're an overhead guy, and maybe you want to go find something else to do. So I was kind of a casualty of lean corporate America. And the third thing was I have a passion for trying to help other people on their journeys. So it's those three things: my own physical challenge, the fact that I needed to do something for my livelihood other than, put in my 60 hours a week for either a small, medium, or large corporation in America. And the third thing was sometimes I'm guilty of trying to teach people how the watch works instead of saying what time it is. But I do love to share my experiences, and I've had a lot of them. So those were the three things, Michelle. Thank you for asking.
Okay, you're welcome. Wow, that's what a diversity of experience melded together as a master fitness trainer. Now, with
Yes.
our topic today with motion, why the focus on motion? With master fitness trainer, you could have emphasized a whole host of different topics, but why motion?
Well, if I could approach it from a couple different angles. The first one with a platitude, if you don't mind. You've probably heard it: sitting is the new smoking. Bad things happen when we, as knowledge workers in corporate America, God bless the farmers and the people that are actually moving for their jobs, but most of us in the IT age, our information technology age, are knowledge. And unless we have a standing desk, we sit, and we sit too much. Now we may work from home, so we don't commute, but we probably sit because it's convenient. So sitting, that platitude really has merit. Sitting is evil. You don't move. You don't support your spine. You don't keep your internal organs aligned. You don't breathe properly with your diaphragm. So the modern age has thrust inactivity upon us. Isn't it interesting in relation to that? So activity generally is down, and consumption of food is way up. I believe it was an accurate, incredible statistics. Over the last 50 years, we Americans have consumed 500 more calories a day. That's a pound a week more than we did 50 years ago. And with the fast food nation, we are consuming simple sugars that turn to fat, cause prediabetes, cause insulin insensitivities, many evil things, because we became a corn economy, we became inactive, and it's a very simple yet hard solution or approach, if not a solution. Motion is medicine. Moving to sweat and to exhale more carbon than you breathe in, or more carbon than you ingest, you want to exhale more carbon dioxide. Now, of course, urea is part of that, sweat is part of that, but the biggest way to lose fat is to breathe a lot, and that comes from moving. Isn't it interesting that if you just happened a lapse, maybe with your kids or grandkids, you went to the Golden Arches and you got a Happy Meal that had a Big Mac, supersized fries, and a soda? Your body, if you don't move, takes one full day to metabolize that carbon. Most of it sugar, some of it fat, some of it protein. A day per Happy Meal. That is scary. A pound a week because we don't move. Our energy equation is out of whack. We don't move generally, and we don't watch portion control, and we don't eat the good macro and micronutrients that we should to stay lean, to stay mobile, and to hunt for our next dinner. We've gotten pretty laid back and mellow, haven't we? So motion is the key. I'm not saying it's simple. It's hard. It's very hard because of habits and the need for persistence and not relying on willpower or New Year's resolutions. Motion has to become an ingrained habit. Some folks refer to it as muscle memory, and if we want to use that term, we could. But it's an ingrained habit. 43% of our habits are subconscious. The ones that work, you're dialed in. If you go to Starbucks, do I get a cappuccino with milk and do I get a sweet roll? Guess what? 5 hours to metabolize that if you don't move. So we have this energy equation, orthogonal or contrasting, if I could twist. Too much carbon ingested, not enough carbon exhaled as CO2. This simple solution is breathing and motion and sweat. It's hard, but that's the way to do it. So
wow.
So it's moving from the platitude to chemistry. It's an issue of carbon. Now there's more, but that truly the primal thing, the fundamental thing, the primary thing is we eat more than we sweat in atoms and in molecules of carbon. And if we don't watch it, it turns to white fat. Now, we need fat. We need fat to absorb some of those vitamins that are essential micronutrients, but we need healthy fat. We don't need, the trans fat. We don't need too much saturated fat. And we certainly don't need simple high glycemic index sugar. Almost any good lifestyle diet is low on sugar and more on the other macros of protein and healthy fat. And if you eat the right blend for you as an athlete, each athlete is different, but as you tune your own dietary ingestion, you'll find out that you perform better as an athlete. And everyone is an athlete, no matter what your physical challenges or liabilities. Those of us that are lucky enough to work with wounded warriors with either mental or physical trauma from serving our nation, we can encourage them to develop the unconscious habits just like they did at boot camp. But in this case, the unconscious habits of portion control for your meals, eating the right things, not the convenient things that our Madison Avenue and providers of sugar and salt and fat on the shelf give us. So motion is medicine. Long-winded answer, Michelle, but the key is move to sweat and breathe heavily. Now, there's lots of ways to breathe heavily. Some are more pleasant than others. But the point is, whatever you do, and it can be in a simple block of time, one block of time, or it can be spread out throughout the day in activities of daily life. But the point is, I advocate an average of 30 minutes a day, 6 days a week of doing more than sitting and staring at an e-game or a series on Netflix in these pandemic times. It is so important. It could be 3 10-minute blocks. It could be 1 30-minute block. But it is so important to get your system moving so that you restore, rebuild, and recover with sleep, good diet, all those things. So motion is interrelated to so much in life, and we are not sedentary. We're not a rock. We're not a bristlecone pine. However, that pine lives 4,000 years, but it doesn't have to move. And we're not a fungi or a fungus. And thank God we're not a virus, although we have plenty of viruses in us. And we also have lots of fungi in us in our wonderful guts. But overall, motion is kind of the key. It's related to how much carbon we take in and how much carbon dioxide we exhale with water vapor and other things. But that's it. That's but hard. We spend our life doing it, and I would hope that your listeners know how important it is. When I first started hitting the workplace, there was a kind of a rule of thumb that you might gain 2 years of longevity with aerobic exercise, regular aerobic exercise. 45 years later, now people think it's 10 years. Because we're learning more about the biochemistry of our cells and our bodies. When we exercise, we actually lengthen the end caps of our DNA strands so that they don't divide as often. And so therefore, that's life extension when you move and when you provide the proper food experiences to sustain and fuel your skeletal, your neuromuscular system, your skeletal muscles to do fun things, whether it's mess with the grandkids or row in a boat or lift weights or climb a mountain or ride a bike, or whatever it is, do it because it's an investment in your future.
I love that. I love that. Just the focus on, you're getting the cappuccino at the store, and you're okay. Now you've got to have some time to metabolize, but many of us don't factor that in, and some of us may frequent the restaurant several times a day, which kind of racks up the calories you've got to move off, so to speak. So how do you balance?
Unless you run a marathon every other day, which for many of us would cause a whole lot of inflammation and possibly lead to injury. But let's take a East African elite marathon runner, probably weighs 120 pounds. Probably the heart is bigger than mine. I've got a pretty large VO2 max with my cardiorespiratory system. But those folks, their legs are about this thick, and they're born for speed. And what do they eat? Carbs. But they also run 25 to 30 miles a day in altitude. So if you weigh 120 pounds and run 30 miles a day, you can eat whatever you want, and you'll look like an awesome elite runner. But some of us, we're not born that way, nor do we want to run 30 miles a day. As much of a challenge as that is, most of us have severe inflammation if we continue to challenge our bodies that much. So in moderation, it's less energy in, more energy expended on a daily basis over time, and hopefully you will stay lean and live better, live longer. Your joints perform better, you sleep better. You get nice comments from your coworkers. When you look at the man or woman in the mirror, you say, hey, looking pretty lean. That's pretty cool, you know. So good things happen, but it's work. It's work. I don't know of any fountain of youth. I don't know of any magic pill. I sure see, probably like you do, 25 to 30 junk emails a day about a magic elixir, or just do this and you'll poop out 2 pounds overnight and be a skinny person tomorrow. Come on, you know, let's, reality check on that. It is work, but the work helps you have a successful journey in your experiences.
Mm,
So I'm not an
absolutely.
East African. I'm sorry about that segue, but an Eskimo eats blubber and lives pretty long, unless alcohol and some of those societal things enter in. We probably have a better diet than Scandinavians, but Scandinavians outlive Americans. Why? Attitude, motion, in my opinion, as a layman. They move. A preschooler in Sweden spends 6 hours outside every day on average. How many
Wow.
American kids spend 6 hours a day outside playing, cavorting, frolicking, being kid-like? There's a message there. You want to live longer? Move. Yeah.
Mm, absolutely. Wow. That is amazing. I love just the emphasis on getting up, getting out. Now, how do you balance, maybe you may not want to be an elite trainer or something of that nature. So how, in our mixture of different activities, how do you work with people to kind of balance what they're doing and in their with it and integrating motion essentially into their day?
That's sort of the $64,000 question, isn't it, Michelle? The answer is find something you like to do. Don't do something unpleasant, because that's kind of silly, right? We tend to do our best in things that we enjoy. So it could be activities of daily life. It could be more gardening. It could be more volunteer work, as long as motion is involved. Many of us do have to. An average knowledge worker invests 3 hours a day, and let's say that's sitting. And let's just say someone's lucky enough to go to the workplace. That's an hour and a half commute. So that's 4.5 hours probably sitting. What are we doing the other 19 and a half hours to counteract that inactivity, that slouching, that compression of our vertebra and our organs and our diaphragm, and not breathing enough? How do we do that? The answer is find something you like. Find a time you like to do it. There's some morning larks like me. Rowers tend to be morning people because the water is often calm in the morning. But if you're a nighthawk, you can still find time to do something for you. And that's the point. Your physical bank has to be invested in with motion and other things, but motion here is our topic. And we have to find the time to do it. Generally, 30 minutes a day, 6 days, 6 days a week, 180 minutes a week of motion to heavier breathing. It doesn't have to be heart thumping red zone breathing, but moving enough to have these wonderful biochemical reactions in our body to restore, rebuild, and gain stamina. We actually create more capillaries and mitochondria, those little powerhouses in our muscles, when we move to sweat. If we don't sweat and we sit, we don't build more capacity. We don't build more capacity, the Social Security Administration will be right. I'll die at the age of 85 if I do nothing. If I keep doing what I do, and according to calculators that I put credence in, the Norwegians have a very good one, which is based on cardiovascular capacity. But Dr. Thomas Pearls has a living to 100 calculator. And I would encourage your listeners to see how much of longevity is related to the refrigerator door and to clean eating. It's a lot. It's more than exercise. Granted, we trainers, Michelle, think that we're pretty good, or we hope we think we're pretty good, but we don't have the impact on body composition and how you look the way diet does. So the answer is the mixture. You mentioned it, mixture. Find something you do, mix it up, but do it repetitively so it becomes subconscious, a habit based on context, sensory feedback, and repetition. But make it fun reps. Don't make it burdensome or, God, I hate doing this, but I heard it was good for me, so I'm going to hate it for the rest of my life. That's not success. Find something you like and breathe heavy
Okay.
enough.
Okay, so we're not just talking about active, focused physical exercise. There are other
Activities
options.
of daily life, wonderful. Activities of daily life. Many of your listeners probably have heard of the blue zones, where these folks tend to live to 100, far greater percentages and statistic analysis than, say, Oklahoma City. That city was challenged by its mayor. There's a TED talk about it. It's wonderful. The city of Oklahoma City lost 1 million pounds, I believe, in 1 year, starting with the mayor who was grossly overweight. He said, this has got to stop. This is going to become a real burden to our healthcare system, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, falls, things like that. If we don't do something, the city of Oklahoma City lost 1 million pounds because it was the right thing to do. So it's a doable do. It does take commitment. It is work. I wish it wasn't. I wish there was a magic pill. But motion should be a bigger part of our lives, as if we were agrarian or hunting for dinner. If you think about humans, I'm a simple guy, so I think of the 4 Fs: fight, flee, feed, and frolic. Food is related to all of those, but in most cases, motion is related to all of those. So it's directly related to what we are, what we evolved when our forebears millions of years ago crawled out of the sea and started on 4 legs, and then we moved to 2 legs and had to hunt for dinner, and we didn't know what cane sugar was millions of years ago. That's how we got to now, eating too much and not moving enough.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. It's just kind of just like what you said, balance, and doing what you love. Now, you've worked with countless amounts of people, as your trainer, individually. What are some success stories? How have people integrated motion into their daily living to build those habits that we were talking about?
Great question. I say mornings are a big part, Michelle, of your successful habits, the context, the repetition, how you build the volume, the intensity, and the tempo of your motion to stay alive and hopefully thrive and strive longer than you would if you were a couch potato. So I say it starts in the morning. Give yourself a big hug, a great stretch. The fancy Sanskrit names for the salute the sun, the 14 steps to salute the sun in that series. Doesn't take long, but you work your body in all 3 of its motion planes. You get your heart rate up a little, and you're off and walking or running. Some say a cold shower is wonderful. Some say some deep breathing is wonderful. We mentioned breath before, didn't we, about motion, how important that is. So starting off the day not stressed and mindful breathing is a great way to go. And that's whether you're a morning lark or a night hawk. When you get up, hopefully without an alarm clock, you're ready to move. You're stretched, you're unlimbered. Unless you chose intermittent fasting as part of your lifestyle, I say it's a rule of thumb to have 30 grams of protein in your breakfast and 5 grams of fiber and at least 16 ounces of water. Not soda, not juice, water. Remember that carbon thing again? And hopefully you're off in a good way for the rest of your day. So I say it starts with the morning. Make your bed, move, get the cold shower if you can, and get on with a great, orbit around the sun, or orbit of the earth, excuse me. But do good things for an orbit around the sun too. So it starts in the morning, but then some workers love to work out at lunchtime to get their metabolism up. Almost everybody suffers a slump toward the end of the workday. For me, it was always about 3 p.m. And even if I had a morning workout, if I could get in motion at the noontime, I could stay vibrant, I could stay active, I could stay, no brain fog, when normally you would have a slump because of insulin and blood sugar and things like that. So how you approach your day should be a very researched, and for you as an individual, I as an individual, you as an individual, each of us has a different way to approach a day, but make the most of it. Hey, we're going to be dead for a long time, so let's make the most of our day, which includes motion. I don't care if you set a smartphone, or if you have an app on your wrist, or you just remember it's quarter after, I better get up and move, and I'm going to go drink water and move instead of have a soda in the company refrigerator. So it's just conscious, and again, it's very important that your motion leads to unconscious healthy habits that stick. Wendy Wood wrote a fairly recent release. She's a behavioral person, behavioral psychologist, and she talks about good habits and bad habits. And she talks about people that don't get tempted by sugar because they've learned that it isn't good for them, and they understand the risk reward. Hey, if I take that, feel good piece of sugar, as we talked about before, it's going to take hours to metabolize, and that sugar craving is probably going to last for 2 days. So before you know it, you may have had an extra chip or some extra butter on your popcorn, and now you're 500 calories over what you should instead of 250. So the mindful approach to your day, any client, I believe, should approach it methodically, not whimsical or whatever. It should have a process, not to be a burden, but to actually be an aid, to make life easier, to have these unconscious habits become real. So, clients, um, I have a fair number that are knowledge workers. Most of them want to work out after work just because of their lifestyle. And that's all well and good as long as you don't work out too aggressively, your heart rate stays high, and you don't get restful sleep, because part of good motion is recovering from it. What do we need? We need to mimic Morpheus and get our not only 7 hours of deep restorative sleep so that you're ready to go do it the next day. So when you exercise and how you exercise, the volume, the intensity, and the tempo should be tuned to your lifestyle and you as an individual athlete. In answer to your question about what have I seen? I've seen 70-year-old slight ladies learn how to balance themselves better and realize how important it is to maintain skeletal muscle so that they don't fall. A slim and not frail, but a slim lady that weighs all of 105 pounds dripping wet might very likely break something, even though she's active and so on. So it's motion helps build what supports our skeleton and keeps us vibrant. And oh, by the way, helps us have a higher metabolism. That's muscle. So it's so that's a 70-year-old story. I work with a lot of, one of the reasons I chose Well Past 40 for the company name is in our lives, and as the theme of your show talks about, for mid-career people, what starts to go a little wrong? You have more responsibilities on the home life. You have more responsibilities at work. Stresses increase. If cortisol goes up, probably fat goes up. Your storage of energy is fat. So I've seen 40-something people that are far too stressed out about things they can't control. But one way to handle those stressors is to breathe and sweat. And sometimes the trouble, not all troubles of the world, but lots of times, a lot of the troubles of the world tend to melt away, at least for the time that you're sweating and breathing heavily. So, that's a 40-something story. That's a 70-something story. One of my rowing clients is 86 years old. And her doctor told her she has to move or she's going to start to, she's going to accelerate her decline. So she's pretty committed, not to working out extraordinarily. I mean, she's not going to probably set a world record for her age group, but she is moving. So there's three examples from my many exposure to individual athletes that understand the importance of motion to sweat.
Okay. So out of those, they tend to be on the upper end of the spectrum age-wise. Now, how long is the turnaround? Like if, for example, whether, we're talking the 80-year-old or the 40-year-old, if you have not been physically active up to that point, how long does it take to really turn around and strengthen your body? Is it worth, so a lot of people say, oh, I haven't exercised for years, it's just not worth it. Is it, how fast does that turn around? How much of a difference can starting movement in your later years make?
Wonderful question. And it's so nice that, as I shared this wonderful change 40 years, 45 years ago, hey, you might get 2 extra years of life because you exercised. But now we think it's more like 10, and it might be higher. But you can build muscle. The latest statistic is you can build muscle into your 80s if you do it. It takes 8 to 12 weeks of pushing and moving stuff to maintain or possibly increase your strength and muscle mass. It gets hard to maintain muscle mass. I get it. There's this thing called sarcopenia, which from its word origin means loss of flesh. So it's going to happen. But if you move stuff, you're going to push it down the road a lot and probably have a better quality of life in your later years into your 80s. Now, that's a big change from when I grew up. And, my dad and my grandpa said, 60, got the gold watch. Yeah, they're going to put me out to pasture. Doesn't have to be that way. We're learning that our bodies can do a whole lot more than we thought in prior years. So how long does it take? If I can give 3 answers related to very important things as we age, Michelle. Stretching, stability, strength, and stretching, stability, strength, and stamina, which are 4 of the S's in my physical bank. Stretching is the quickest, and that's important. When people ache because their joints are tight, their connective tissue is tight, they're probably not going to move unless they know that with techniques of stretching and rolling and moving and getting the blood flowing, you'll be able to function. So stretching, you can improve very noticeably in just a few weeks. Stability, also a few weeks. I always ask my clients, no matter what their age, stand on one leg with your eyes closed, and I'll time you. That's number 1. Number 2, sit on the ground and get up without using your hands like you used to do as a kid. How do you do? If you can do that, you're probably, if you can stand, if I, at my age, and it's age variant, and you're probably 25 seconds, Michelle, one leg, eyes closed. My metric is 15 seconds, one leg, eyes closed. So stretching and stability, they're very important to prevent falls, to support activities of daily life. And those are pretty quick in answer to your question. Strength, 8 to 12 weeks of dedicated. At my age, 2 times a week. Probably at your age, 3 times a week is okay, because you have to tear down to build up. You create micro tears in your skeletal muscle that has to be replenished, restored, rebuilt, and your muscle fiber will get a little thicker, a little longer if you do it, in your case, 3 times a week with a focused resistance program. As we get older, we take 2 days to recover, not one like you. So 8 to 12 weeks for strength. The tough one, and the one that keeps us alive, stamina for staying alive, can take months and months. Yet, if you're out in nature, getting vitamin D to help fend off COVID, getting some time with the grandkids, getting your feet in the grass or the sand on the beach, those are wonderful, mindful things. So stretching and stability, a few weeks; strength, 8 to 12 weeks; stamina for staying alive, months on your journey. Hope that answered your question. 4 parts.
It did. And adding that many years to your life, even in your later years when you think, oh, I'll never do it. But with your physical banking method, it seems very doable, even for the most sedentary of us or the most active of us.
If I can peek for a second in one of my reference books, I think it's Dr. Leventhal. He had a small study, but significant study, well validated, vetted, published. Men in their 80s significantly improved their leg strength. Now, that doesn't mean they got massive thighs, but they improved their leg strength, which helps them prevent falling and move and all that, in 8 to 12 weeks. So it's a calendar quarter to make your life better and avert a fall, have more fun with the grandkids, improve your diet, get better sleep, motion. Pushing and moving stuff is really good.
Okay, fantastic.
Never too late, but it's better to start early. It's tougher at 85 than it is at 35. Yeah. But never
Absolutely.
too late. Never.
That's fantastic. Now, for people just getting started, regardless of their schedule, you've got people working 80 plus hours a week and say, when am I going to fit this in, to those who love to take nature walks. But what's kind of some first steps that people can take as they get started on these 4 S's and the physical banking?
Yeah. And again, an 80-hour week is stressing, isn't it? It tires you out. And if you find the right exercise, it should rejuvenate you to keep going strong. Some of the most successful executives, naval leaders, military leaders, CEOs like Sir Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, guess what? They work out because they know they're more productive no matter how many hours you work a week. So successful people realize they have to treat their body as a temple, in the biblical phrase, the Old Testament phrase about treat your body as a temple. It's important. And successful people tend to do that no matter what the work load is, unless you're a physical laborer. And then, of course, it's probably more that you sleep and eat well to restore. If you're moving heavy bags of sand 12 hours a day, you got plenty of pushing heavy stuff already. But for most of us, the knowledge workers, no matter how many hours you week, you can find the time. If you're sitting, you could do an isometric exercise that works on your muscles. Even though you're not moving the joints, you're creating contractions in your skeletal muscle to improve your strength. Gary Player, the great golfer from South Africa, was not a big man, but he had a lot of flights to get from South Africa to the PGA games. He did isometric exercises. So you use the time that you have. If you're seated like you and I are, you could be doing toe raises. You could be stretching. You could any number of chair-bound exercises to stretch your hips, to stretch your core. Use the time that you have. Be resourceful. And if you can't figure that out on your own, try to find somebody. People my age, many of them have silver sneakers where the AARP and their healthcare system encourages folks to stay active, whether they're chair-bound or they're mobile. If you can't figure it out on your own, Michelle, it's so important to first talk to your medical professionals. Of course, I'm not saying just hop right in without the doctor giving the okay. But once you get the okay, find things that you can fit into your activities of daily life, perhaps changing them a little bit for the better, but find something that works. One of the reasons New Year's, we all know it, about 90% of all 2021 resolutions are going to fail because people pick goals that are too ambitious and they don't establish the sticky habits to make it work. So willpower is not enough. doing it, even if it's 5 minutes. As I shared, it's wonderful if you can move 30 minutes a day. It can be 6 5-minute blocks. It could be taking the steps instead of the elevator. It could be park the car further out in the parking lot from the store or the workplace. Motion is medicine. Figure out a way. We have, what is it, 86,400 seconds in a day. We can find time to move more than we do.
Mm.
And oh, by the way, we should eat more. We should eat more slowly. I'm notorious for kind of like the military, 3 chews and a swallow. I eat too quickly. I should spend more time eating slowly. But aside from being at a food place, we can find lots of useful time in a day to do things that are good for us. They may extend our lives. They may help us with the quality of our life because we're moving. So start small. Figure out things in the activities of your daily life that can help you get your heart rate up just enough to build capacity and have fun. Have fun. It could be walk the dog more if you have a dog, or the grandkids, or coworkers, or workout buddies. Yes, but is not a good answer. Yes, and I can find 30 minutes a day out of however many minutes it is. Find the seconds in a day. If there are 86,400 seconds in a day, you can find the seconds to invest in your physical bank. You can. Doesn't mean you will, because 90% of resolutions fail. But for those committed people that want to live longer and live better, the experience of motion, clean eating, good sleep, strength, stability, stamina, stretching, and don't stress, so important. So,
oh, love it. Oh, it's so many, and so I don't know. Do I dare say it easy? I mean, it takes work, absolutely, like you said, but it's so worth it. And just from your own example, as well as the people you've worked with, so powerful as well, what that little bit of motion can do for you.
you could have 1,000 excuses, Michelle. All you need is that one thing. If you remember that, I don't know if you saw the movie City Slickers. I don't see a lot of movies, but I love Jack Palance. Curly was his name in City Slickers. And he tells Billy Crystal, find that one thing. Billy Crystal goes, Curly, what is it? He said, that's for you to find out. Don't look for the 1,000 yes buts. Find a yes and one thing that you can do to move more, to live longer and live better. It could be park the car further out. It could be don't have your kid lift the grocery bags. You lift the grocery bags when you get home from the market. Those kinds of things, as you said, easy or simple yet hard things, to treat your body like a temple and treat it the way we evolved. It wasn't to sit. In the Old Testament, it doesn't say, hey, people were busy. They built the earth in 7 days, right? They were busy. So you're not to be sedentary. Sedentary is evil. Move.
Absolutely. Well, David, how can people get in contact with you?
Thank you, Michelle. I am online, even as a Luddite. I'm online. My email is dave@wellpast40. That's WELLPASTFORTY.com. And on Twitter, if people are tweeters, we know some people recently that lost their Twitter accounts, but I still have mine. DEFP Trainer on Twitter. Instagram, it's #KaboomerCoach, and that's with 2 Ks, Kaboomer with a K and Coach with a K, just for fun. The website is wellpast40.com. I'm on this earth to try to teach people my mistakes and my lessons learned, so that folks can go out and do those easy things that you said, to move to sweat, live longer, and live better. So I'd love to hear from any listeners. I promise I'll do my best to respond, tell you what I know, tell you what I don't know, and encourage folks to do their best to invest in their physical bank and enjoy the food experience too.
Wonderful. Well, David, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for all you do in the movement world, the motion world, and really helping people, to inspire them essentially to extend their life, to have that desire to do what they love and live well past 40.
Thank you, Michelle. What an honor and a privilege to chat. And thank you for your great questionings, to perhaps extract a pearl or two from all my Vermonter words. So
Wonderful.